bit of an update to where we left off from the last video. If you haven't watched that yet, then maybe watch it before this one. Well, I was able to ride the Tiger back home, which was about 40 minutes away. Apart from the obvious missing bits from the bike, nothing else was out of place. It rode flawlessly. No vibrations, no knocking sounds, nothing. Once I got home, I went online and started my claim with the insurance company. By the way, the incident happened on a Saturday. On the Monday, I received a call and I was told by the insurance company that the claim was not on the system. So I had to go through the whole claim process again. Bit annoying, but what can you do? I was told that they'd be following up within 10 days. The Tiger was insured fully comprehensive, so Carl took his BMW GS into the insurer's preferred repairer about a day or so before me. They assessed his bike and listed all the parts required. When I took my Tiger into them, they told me that they'd firstly assessed the bike and then put together a costing for all the replacement parts. And they promised updates via text messages during the whole process. I was pretty impressed by that. I had a telephone conversation with the repairer after they'd had the bike about a week and asked if the bike had been assessed, to which at that point they said it hadn't. To be fair, I had told them that there was no rush to get my bike back on the road. Carl's BMW was top priority because he'd had a road trip planned for October. However, after that conversation, I've heard nothing from either the repairer or the insurance company at that point. So after about a week from my last call, I called the repairer, which was on a Friday, and then they told me that the Tiger may possibly be an economical write-off. But they'd call me back on the following Monday to confirm it. They told me that the actual parts alone for the Tiger were pushing $10,000. Yes, $10,000. The TFT alone was just under $3,000. They said the forks were damaged, which I found hard to believe, as I had no issues riding the Tiger back home. They didn't actually go through a parts listing and costings with me, but they stated most definitely costing around 10 grand. There would also be 20 hours of labour for repair work, and there was no costing offered for that either. It all sounded very strange and quite shocking to me. They seemed very keen to consider writing the bike off. Anyhow, Monday rolled around and no call from the repairer or the insurance company. We're now 3 weeks in from making the claim at this point. On the Tuesday or Wednesday, Carl called me and asked if I'd had an update on the bike, and I told him I'd heard nothing. He said he'd gone to the repairer that day because he was working close by and he thought I'd just pop in to ask to see how his bike was going in relation to the parts ordered. They'd asked if he'd spoken to me and he said he hadn't. That's when they told him that my Tiger was written off and it was taken to an auction company for selling. So much for keeping me up to date, eh? Well, that triggered a day of drama making calls to the insurance company and then on to the assessor. I called the insurance company and asked why I hadn't been informed about the Tiger being written off and moved on to a salvage auction site. And they told me that nothing had been recorded on their systems, surprise, surprise, and that the bike hadn't been written off at that point, and they gave me a contact number for the insurance company assessor. So I called the assessor and he told me he'd very nearly completed the assessments and it was looking like that the Tiger would yes be deemed an economical write-off. Apparently, if the repair bill is 75% or more of the value of the motorcycle, then it's a write-off. He told me the same deal, around $10,000 for replacement parts and 20 man-hours for installation of the parts. I asked him where my bike was and he reckoned he wasn't sure. And some other breakdown of communications then. He called the repairer and he had it confirmed to them that it'd been trucked away to the auction company. So to say I was shocked and annoyed, it would be a massive understatement. So I called the insurance company a little bit later on to tell them that I was not happy with the breakdown in the communications and that I would be sending them a bill for the inconvenience of having to drive to the auction site to remove my property from the bike. So when I got there and when I first saw the Tiger, I immediately noticed an issue with the top box. There were marks and scratches and just marks, and yeah, it's horrible around the locking area. I can only assume that the damage was done by the truck driver who transported the bike from the repairer to the auction site. So I told the insurance company that I was holding them responsible for the damage and asked how they would replace it. They advised me in an email that, and I quote, "You are eligible to get reimbursed for a reasonable cost of similar top box. You can purchase one and send through the invoice for review." Well, that didn't fill me with confidence, and at this point I'd had enough of the whole claim process. I'd have had to replace the locking barrel mechanism and probably at my cost, so I told them I'd just keep the top box. I did invoice the insurance company for the fuel and for the time it took me to drive to the auction site, remove my property and then drive back home, which they have now settled. I've also been paid out for the Tiger, which was approximately 1 month on from the incident. So, my insurance claim hasn't been overly smooth or stress-free. It's actually been more of an issue dealing with the claim than the incident itself. Well, at least I have cash in the bank to buy another bike. So, do I go with another Tiger or something different? You'll find out in a future video, so stay tuned. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do to catch up with the latest instalment. I'd also like to say thanks to the folks who actually commented and inquired about Carl and myself's well-being. It's been very much appreciated. I've most certainly learnt a lesson, and thankfully we weren't injured. Carl had a very sore shin, which took quite some time to recover, and I did have some stiffness in my left neck area and left shoulder due to the front end jolt I received. Luckily, I also had full comprehensive insurance to cover both bikes. Stay tuned for the next update regarding my next bike. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.